Fantastic. All right, so we'll call the meeting to order at 11:02. I want to officially thank John for all of the work he has done with the cataloging committee here in the past. We really appreciate it. And again, my name is Celine Vandervloot. I work at Cook Memorial Library in La Grande. And we want to start with approving the minutes. Everyone should have received them via email last week. I have received a note about 4 typos that need to be corrected, and those will be fixed. They don't change the content at all. They're just typos, and we will get those corrected when we upload the minutes.
I have them listed on the screen for you in case anybody wants to see them. They're highlighted here in the minutes, and I will get them uploaded and replace the existing minutes up on the website. They are listed right there. They're just 4 words.
Are there any other corrections, clarifications, or changes that people needed to mention? Is there anything coming up in chat?
I don't see anything.
No. All right. Will someone move to approve the minutes with those 4 corrections to the typos that John put up?
This is Dia. I would make the motion to approve the minutes with those corrections.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I second.
I'll beat you.
Fine, John. Rude.
All right. It has been moved and seconded. If there are any objections, can anyone please comment or chat? All right, the minutes from the October meeting have been approved with those 4 changes, and they will be uploaded to the Sage webpage. On to the next part of the meeting. So member comments. After we sent out the agenda, I did have a couple additional comments submitted via email that we'll talk about, including series titles, the 999s, and some 3XX tags. But before we get into those, does anyone have any cataloging issues or questions that they'd like to discuss today that are not on the agenda? Silence. Is there anything in the chat?
This is Lori, and if we have time, I'd like to talk a little bit about how you make sure that you're entering series and confirming series precedents on Sage.
Yes, I have the notes that you sent. Well, I added that to the agenda items.
I didn't see it on this agenda, so I just thought I'd remind you, but that's great. Thank you.
Yep, we will get to it. Does anyone else have anything? All right, well, let's jump right into the new business. These first couple items are more just quick reminders. When you're entering series information on a record, if the series is not listed on the item itself, then of course we're supposed to put in the 500 note saying where that came from. And when you do that, you do not need to include the www dot or the .com if you're sorting, if you're sourcing a web page. So for instance, if you're using Goodreads as your series source, you would just say the information came from Goodreads, period. You don't need to say www.goodreads.com. Are there any questions or comments on that? All right. Then next, again, is just a quick note. I don't know if it's, I don't know why, but when you're importing new records for books, new book records into Z39 from stuff that was just recently published, I've noticed that there are several places like Seattle that usually have really good, clean records very quickly, and theirs are not complete as quickly anymore. I don't know if it's because of COVID delays, working at home, or what, but if there are sources that you usually go to for those new records, please double check that they have complete information in the 300 and the publication lines. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that in the Z39 recently or not. Is there any questions or discussion on that? All right. The next note that we have is on the 020 fields regarding the ISBNs. And that's just a reminder, again, it's been discussed before, but remove any ISBNs that are designated for large print because those items should be in their own record. And if an ISBN is included for an ebook, those should have a subfield Z instead of an A. So those corrections can be made when you're bringing records in. Did any of the mentors have any additions to that, or are there any questions from the committee?
Sometimes you may notice when you're bringing in records, you might see this more and more, that other editions, other formats will have a 775 or 776 field that's imported in the record for the ebook. Usually is when I've seen it, ebook, electronic book, or online version. And that'll also have a subfield that has the ISBN attached to it. And that's a different thing, and those are totally legitimate, and we want to keep those in when we're importing records. We want to keep that information in. Right now, it's not serving much functionality in Evergreen, but it might be of some importance later on down the line. So.
Are there any questions about that? All right, silence. Has anything popped up in the chat that we need to discuss?
They were only concerned that they didn't see me after I started the meeting, or at least Lisa was. Hi, Lisa.
Okay. All right. Well, then the next item is one that we have a little more detail to go over, and it's regarding book club kits. And there is a template in the catalog to use when you're adding book club kits. The mentor committee just wanted to note that not all of the fields in that template will be applicable to every kit. So to look at those closely as you're putting those kit records in. And what brought this up recently was that the Marchive is starting to add in additional 3XX fields based on information in the 007. And John, do you have that visual up?
Yes, he does, Celine.
Awesome, thank you. So,
oh, I'm sorry. I was talking and was muted. That would be helpful if I unmuted myself. Yeah, this record here is an example of some changes that Marchive is making that Celine will talk about. You can see up at the top of the screen the 3x fields that have been changed because of Marchive and Marchive noticing the 007 field. But go ahead, Celine.
So it's just in the past, if you had left that 007 field in your record, even though it wasn't needed, it didn't make as much of a difference. But now that Marchive is adding in these additional, it's reading it and it's thinking that because the 07's in there, that this item includes discs, and it's adding these other pieces. So the mentor committee just noticed that Marchive is starting to do that, and we'll be looking into what other changes Marchive is starting to automatically make based on what it's seen in a record. And we'll look into that more fully and keep you posted. And to help the situation along, the mentor committee is also going to be putting together a new book club template that will be put up on Evergreen for you. And that should help alleviate any confusion. The mentor committee, do you have anything to add to this?
Just to clarify, this is a fine record by Leanne, who's here. These extra fields that, like this 340 and 344, this is Marchive chicanery. This is not Leanne's doing.
Right.
Okay,
And
good, because well, I just did one
go
this
ahead.
morning, and it was the book one, and I used the template on the website. And I took the 007 out because I did not have any recorded material. Is that okay? I mean,
Yes,
it wasn't pertinent to my record.
That's okay. And later on, like Celine said, we'll have a more specific template for these types of materials that'll make less work for catalogers.
Right. And if there would have been, the accompanying audio, I would have been able to leave it. But how come it's not generating the little audio disc? Because I thought the 007 combined with the 3XX, because if you'll switch that view back over, because I used that record this morning, or one of Leanne's record this morning, to double check my kit record, my book club kit record, and I did notice those. Anyway, when you switch over to see it,
Kit.
my record came up, yeah, and mine came up with a book as well, but I thought that the 007 and the 3XX made it do the little disc, audiobook disc icon.
It depends upon the type, the format type. As John showed there, this is a kit. And so it runs off of this particular one, it runs off of that kit rather than the 007.
And mine does too.
On the sound recordings, it runs off of, based on the 007, the particular field or the particular character position in that.
Well, and notice this too. These 3x fields are not what you would find on an audio recording, right? So it's also looking at that and judging that too. Because if this were audio,
I get mine? I'm sorry. How did I get mine to make the little book come up then? Because I have a book and a kit in mine, and it's all pretty close. I have all of this. On the 336s, I only have the text. Oh, is it the 336 with the text? Is there? Maybe. Okay.
They do influence.
But I don't have, I don't have the three-dimensional form 336 because I didn't think I needed that one. I have the 338 object and the 337 unmediated with the 336 text. So that might be why. Okay.
Yeah.
Curious.
So to clarify, is that icon coming from the 3XXs or from one of the 6 fields?
Well, this particular icon is a kit icon, so this is going to be coming from the Type O kit. Type O is a kit, so that would be changing.
Different types, and just for clarification, some of them are different types based on different things. So for sound recordings, because there's many different sound recordings, icons, it comes out of a specific character position in the 007. And that one is actually based on, I think it's the speed. So there are some different variables in it too.
Well, that's helpful to know. Are there any other questions or clarifications needed regarding the book club kits right now? All right, so then moving along, so I have 3 more items here that were emailed to me after we sent the agenda out. And I believe, was it Lori, these are the ones you're referring to. One is a reminder to continue adding the 999s to your records when you bring them in, and to please refer to the list on the SAGE cataloging page for the correct designations for those. I don't know if anyone has examples on ones that we see repeatedly that we need to be more careful on.
The one that comes to mind for me is I have seen books as opposed to book. Not all that often, but. And capitalization doesn't matter, right? Am I correct in that? I want somebody to fact check.
Correct. Correct.
I sometimes see book period.
Yeah, we don't want to add any periods because that gives it a new one as opposed to putting it in with the others. So punctuation does make a difference, but uppercase and lowercase does not in this case.
And that cheat sheet on the Sage page is very easy to find. It's on the main cataloging page if you need to refer to it. Are there any other comments that people or questions people have regarding the 999?
One of the ones that I see from time to time is audiobook, and I think it just be sure that if you use that, you use the correct one, not just audiobook by itself, but it's audiobook CD, or I believe it's audiobook cassette or something like that, but make sure you're using the correct one.
Okay.
I have noticed a lot of variations in the last 2 months, and I think we're just all rather distracted. And I do keep that the correct wording in front of you, because it does create, as Dia said, it creates a whole new scoping area, and it messes it up. I clean them up frequently.
Sometimes I will see the letter E. I'm not sure if it was meant to be typed in the subfield, because it's subfield E in 999, but sometimes instead of text saying book, it'll say E instead, which is kind of strange.
Anything else on that? All right, the other topic that was emailed to me is an additional reminder about the 245 subfield H, the GMD, which we are not supposed to use anymore. And when I was rereading the minutes from October 5th, I see that there was a fairly detailed discussion about that people can refer to if they want more clarification. But just remember that we do not add that into the records anymore. That information is put in the record with the 3XX fields. And the discussion of it was under, let's see. Under the authority section of the October 5th minutes, the third item down. Do any of the mentors want to add any additional information that wasn't discussed last time regarding that issue?
I'll just reiterate that from this point until the RDA adoption next year, it's kind of a weird transitional period, and so it's kind of almost there at RDA, not there yet. So, and this is part of that. So I understand how people are saying, well, I'm supposed to add it, I'm not, I'm doing an AACR2 record, what do I do with it? And so there is a bit of confusion and gray area there. We understand that. And a lot of that we're going to be able to clean up later, I think. For now, the main point being, let's make sure not to add it to existing records or records that you're importing.
All right. The last item that was emailed to me was regarding checking the SAGE series policies when you're entering a new title for a series. And John, there's that one we had a visual on a correct piece of an entry. An example that was given was on Brandon Moll's Dragon Watch series. And that's one of those lovely books that puts the series title very prominent on the item. And at first glance, it can look like that series title Dragon Watch is either the main title with Champion and Titan Games as a part or a subtitle, but that's not the way that we're supposed to be entering it according to the SAGE policy. The correct way to enter books like that would be on the visual that John has up. So the book title itself is Champion of the Titan Games. It has author and illustrator. In the 246, you can add an alternate title that includes Dragon Watch on it. And then, of course, Dragon Watch would be listed in the 490 and the 800 so that we can trace the series that way. The importance of having everybody enter those books the same way is, I'm sure you've noticed when you have a patron at the counter and you're trying to find the correct book title and you enter Champion and Titan Games and it doesn't pop right at the top. So we're just trying to get consistency in those titles. If any of the mentors, and also there's no punctuation after the 246, just a reminder for that at the end of the 246. Do any of the mentors, especially the person that requested we discuss this, have any additional items that they want to point out?
Yeah, that would be me, that person. And I think it's pretty obvious as long as people just remember to check precedents on SAGE. And from what I've noticed, most libraries, most good high quality utilities do handle these books in the way that we're asking our catalogers to do it. The series title you can certainly make that the lead title in the 246, but it should not be that way in the 245 from what I have seen. And if that precedence were to change, then we'd have a lot of cleaning up because every book in that series should follow the same precedence. And then we could go on from there. But for now, I see this being the accepted policy.
Just one small question. Does 246 subfield B begin capitalized or uncapitalized?
Uncapitalized.
Uncapitalized. That's what I thought, but I'm a nonfiction person, so I don't know what you weird people do over in fiction. Titan Games would still be a proper noun, though, right? So that would be capitalized.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any questions about what was just discussed? Is there anything in the chat?
Does anyone want to talk about Michael Connolly?
No.
Would you like to talk about Michael Connolly?
Not at all.
Okay. He's just referring to yet another series discrepancy that, trying to figure out how best to get it in the records.
It is really interesting because it's a real clear example of where the publisher decides they're going to use a certain series as a marketing thing. It usually happens after several books in that series, and then they change course. And it could be that novelists, Goodreads, and fantastic fiction have complete disagreement, not only in the title, but in the numbering. And Library of Congress may have one or two of those series titles as authorized, but of course they don't manage numeration at all. And it just drives me nuts because it's really hard as a consortium. Once we put those items out in the series on our shelves, they are shelved by that series title, author's name and then series title. And when there's disagreement across all the different spectrums of the publication of an item, oh, that's just so infuriating. And so we are allowed to put more than one 4XX, 8XX into our records. One time we talked that we would have more than one of the 800 fields for series display, but I think it's only one still. So our patrons get confused if our series title is suppressed, and we're now flowing along with the publisher's new choice of series title. Very frustrating to me.
Lori, this is Lisa Feline. How would I don't know, let's see how it sounds out loud. What if we had a series cheat sheet kind of a thing? That email that you put out was a really, really good start as a resource for some of our trickier series that either required the double authorization headings, title things, or that their series numerations are weird and go back and forth between fantastic fiction and Goodreads. I don't know, how do people feel about maybe having a centralized document that we can refer to, or that the mentors can say, hey, I noticed that you were working on this series. Can you please refer to this document when you're doing these books, or to go fix your record?
Well, it would be ever changing, I think, and it's just
Sure.
one more thing to do. But yeah, again, I just say go look at Sage, check precedents.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a question, look at any of the catalogers who have initials on the creation of that document. Maybe contact them.
Okay.
It's just we do have a series troubleshooting link,
Right.
but I don't think it's active because I still have some questions that I sent in a couple of years ago and we haven't addressed it. So I don't know
Well,
how
I really appreciated the email, and like I said, I'm keeping it. I have like a personal thing of the different weird things that I've seen in this series and things that I'd want to avoid and things that I want to use again. So I added that to that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, here's a question regarding the series then, and I don't know if John, if you know the answer to this, but when you're checking the authorities and you're looking at the author's name and the series title comes up with it, how long does it take for that series title to get attached to an author's name? Because that's what we're supposed to be using as the #1 resource, correct?
Sometimes it happens really fast, especially with like some of the YA titles are like basically immediately.
And here's the rub on that. Library of Congress no longer actively does series headings and haven't for a number of years.
So it's like a fun surprise when they do have it.
Pretty much.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, you all.
You can't rely.
Well, and
Dear
that is
John, who
actually
doesn't
why-
do fiction.
Sorry,
that is actually why we have added those other, steps, if you will. This being a primary and then secondary, third, whatever, is because Library of Congress no longer has those as an active thing.
I see.
Yeah, but when the publisher and the author don't even agree, that's really perplexing to me.
Yeah. The series is difficult, but boy, it is really nice when it is linked properly and you have a patron standing in front of you. You can quickly grab the next book in the series instead of popping into a web page and searching it yourself. But it is an ever-changing puzzle piece. Are there any other questions about series or comments or reminders for people? Are there any other items at all that anyone has thought of that they would like to share or discuss before we move out of new business? All right. Can someone let me know if there's anything in the chat that we need to talk about?
Nothing that I see.
All right. Well then, pending business is just a reminder that the mentor committee finished all their hard work and they have updated the requirements for cataloging levels. So the SAGE core cataloging competencies are posted on the webpage, and you can look at those if you're interested in moving to a different level or getting additional training. Then you can please just contact your mentor. The mentor list and their contact information is also posted on the webpage. All this was discussed at previous meetings. Just a reminder in case somebody missed it last time. Did anyone have any questions about that process or what they need to do or who they need to contact? All right, well, kept it short and sweet today then. The next meeting will be Monday, February 1st, 11 o'clock. And we'll just keep doing the meetings for 2021 at the same time, same day of the month. And if anyone has any items that they want added to the agenda, you can just email them to me. And for some reason, couldn't get the agenda emailed to the committee. I got blocked on the list, so John sent it out to you. But I don't know if John, if you can copy and paste my email into the chat, it might be easier than me. It's my name, it's cvandervloot at cityoflagrande.org. And you can send me any questions. If you have items that need to be forwarded on to the mentor committee, I can take care of that for you also. And then is there anything else anyone wants to add before we shut down for the day?
Let me make sure I get this right. It's your name, and then is there a period between your first and last name? Oh, it's C. That's right.
No.
It's not your first name. It's C.
Vandervloot.
That's right. At
cityoflagrande.org.
Okay. So that her email is in the chat for you all.
All right. And let's see if I can have someone move to adjourn the meeting.
Could I just ask, does anybody want to give an update on how things are going in their community and in their library? Does anybody have any startling news or any hopeful news, or what's going on with everyone?
Well, I can start that. In LaGrande here, we were able to finally reopen to the public with restrictions, and that lasted for about a month, a little bit less, and now we have closed back down to just doing curbside again because Union County's numbers have spiked up again. So I don't know. Our director hasn't decided when we will reopen to bring the public back in the building, but the curbside service is going quite well for us, and people are still using our resources and the online resources regularly. Anyone else?
I can tell you here at Harney County Library, we've managed to, we were only closed to curbside only for a very short time. Our numbers remain relatively low. It looked for a while like we were going to face it was closure again, but seemed to have a little grip on it here at the time. But as staff, we have to say we're only open 4 hours a day. We feel the morale is a little bad, and it's like we just feel like we just have to argue, the safety points, and we feel defensive a lot, even though most of our patrons are just golden. almost every day we have a rather ugly encounter with somebody. And we feel like we'd like to quit being guardians like this, you know, for an industry that's service oriented. It's a kind of a mismatch for all of us. And we find ourselves just wishing this will be over soon. Our circulation, I would say, even though we're very busy, it seems, our return box is always overflowing. I think our actual numbers are probably around 60% of normal. And most people seem to have enough common sense to not go into public places too often, so that's restricting some things.
How's life in Baker?
We never actually closed again. We have very intense cleaning procedures in place. And we have limited capacity, but we have patrons coming in and browsing. Everybody's wearing masks. Everybody's sanitizing their hands before they come in. And then leaving. So we've had a pretty positive experience, luckily, and have been pretty fortunate.
I have, to your point, Lori, I have on occasion had unpleasant conversations with patrons, and the line of conversation I usually start down is, we are trying to do everything that we can to stay open. And my personal opinion is, you know, if that means I have to do this, if that means I have to do this, in order for the library to stay open, then that's what I'm going to do. And I've had some success with patrons that kind of say, okay, well, I'd rather that than the library shut down. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, same thing here. That is our first line as well. Do you restrict how long people can come into the building to use Wi-Fi?
Yes, we do. They only get 30 minutes for browsing and hanging out, and then if they're on our computers, they can have an hour, and they're very socially distanced.
Yeah, that's about the same as ours.
That's what we were doing in the Grand also when we were open. And actually, I was surprised. Most people that came in to browse did not even stay the half an hour. They were in and out, 5-10 minutes. And most of the families wanted to continue doing curbside even when we opened, just because they didn't want to have to bring in all their children and deal with it.
We have seen quite an increase. Yeah, we have seen quite an increase as of late of folks using our branches and or bookmobile when they haven't before, just out of an abundance of caution, not having to come into the city center, which is kind of interesting.
Would anyone else like to share what they're doing at their library right now with the COVID restrictions? Well, I have to say I do miss programming, and it's been a long haul without that, and it's been tough for the staff to try to plan programming. This is the month that we're usually starting, think about summer reading and all of that. So it's a weird time.
I think it's been a little hard on all of the children's and YA programming. We have some of our staff who's trying to do Battle of the Books via Zoom. So there's been some challenges.
We had just started, our book talk group was meeting outside during the summer and socially distanced. Well, one of our good members offered up her yard, and it was really fun, as long as it didn't get windy or something. And we had just returned to allowing up to 10. They had to RSVP. We could have up to 10, socially distance everyone carefully. They had to wear masks and sanitize, and 45 minutes was the limit. We never quite stuck right within that time. The women and a couple of men were so glad to get back together. And then in November, our numbers went up, and it was so hard to return that now to a Zoom meeting, and almost none of them would attend it in that format. So I know people are really looking for ways to have these social contacts, and it's just so contrary as someone who works in public outreach to have to restrict that. And so I appreciate everyone sharing, some of their dilemmas too. So it is a very difficult time.
Barbara, I think did you want to say something? I think you're unmuted now. Maybe something with your audio. Yeah, we can't hear you, Barbara. You may have to type. Whoa, try it again. No, I don't think we're getting you. Oh, there you are. Okay. Barbara says we opened up but had problems with patrons, so they're closed to curbside again.
All right. Are there any other discussion topics? Anything general? Doesn't have to be cataloging that you wanted to bring up? All right. Well, we will close the meeting then. Can I have someone make a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Anybody at all?
Barbara's second in the chat.
We're all just going to stay here forever.
Okay, if there are no objections, then any objections? No? Okay, so the meeting's adjourned at 11:45, and we will do this again on Monday, February 1st, 11 o'clock. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your patience with the weird tech stuff today. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Celine and John. Bye.
Bye-bye.